We've got an absolute special guest with her. We've all know this man's name. This gentleman rolls on YouTube with over 5k views, 5k videos pumped out into the system, nearly 50k subscribers, and over 18 million video views. You've all seen these videos, you've all stepped out and jumped onto YouTube to help us out. We are currently with the man, Mr. Scalespeeder. Scalespeeder, welcome to the podcast. I hope you're having a lovely day, my friend. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's an honour.
We are currently sitting down at Seven Grad School, having a little chat. He's been kind enough to join us today. We've got a few questions to roll on. As you know, Scalespeeder is a YouTube content creator who's helped the Dayz console community for quite a while. He's been pumping videos out since 2014. Established himself an absolutely wicked name. And I know even myself, I've been helped by the man himself. First of all, I'd like to thank you for everything that you do for the community, and I hope you continue on what you're doing, because what you bring out absolutely helps the community tenfold.
That's really kind of you to say so. Thank you I'm just pleased that it works. You know, whenever I make my tutorial videos, as you know when you watch them, they're not exactly scripted. So I tend to do them off the top of my head, and afterwards I sometimes think, I hope all that works. I hope I've mentioned everything. And one of the problems I've got now is because things have starting to change even more. Like with the CFG gameplay changing, and all these the way that damage changed last update. I've got to think, oh God, what are the videos I've done that where I talked about that I've got to go back and find. Normally people tell me in the comments, go, this doesn't work anymore. Yeah, I've got to go back and sort of start redoing those videos, because the thing is, when I first started doing them, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. Really, it was just I just wanted to get the information out there so that other console modders would have an idea. And I watched some of those early videos and I think, that isn't really the best way of doing
this stuff. You critiqued your art since then.
Yeah, well, well, exactly. We've come such a long way, haven't we, with what we can do now. In those early days, there was a couple of online types, that XML editors, I think, that I had a go at using, and I recommended, I think, in some of my earlier videos. And now I think, no, don't do it like that. Don't do it like that.
The practices,
brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
The practices have gone; they're outdated. It must be strange when you do tutorial videos that you have to go back and sort of add a few comments in to say, well, this doesn't work anymore, or change the video up. But it also gives you the opportunity to re-release, I guess, newer and updated content for obviously your viewers.
So what I did last year, I think it was last year, was I redid a series of simpler videos, like an introduction to console modding, where I went back and redid, what can you do with a Nitrado server? What are the basic editing things you should do? What are the most powerful, simple things you can do, like making days longer and nights shorter, making the temperatures more friendly and all that sort of stuff. And kind of went back and redid. I think I did about 10 or 11 of those in sort of short form, which went down pretty well. But you're right, because things change, and I'll get people put messages on videos from like 2018. And they go, all right, this doesn't work for me. And I think, all right, so I go back and I'll put a link normally at the bottom saying, okay, so now this has changed to this. And then often I'll put the videos unlisted, but people will still have links to those videos on other websites, so they end up seeing them. So sometimes I do have to think, with some of those early videos, should I get rid of them? Should I make them private? Or could they be of value at some point? And I'm not quite sure kind of what to do. I mean, this year I'm probably going to do a beginner's guide to not beginner's guide to modding, but I'll do a beginner's guide to Dayz, 2023 or something like that probably. But I think there's lots of things I think are going to be changing this year, well, not changed, being added to. So maybe I'll have to go back and redo do some of that. It's like having a library
Yeah,
of
I could
instruction
imagine.
manuals,
I can imagine you probably also
and they're
could go
going out
back
of
at the
date.
early videos and think, wow, I remember when we used to do this and when we used to spawn in through event files and, how that was difficult, and now we look at that like it's nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the good things about that is that some of that early stuff that we used to do that wasn't very reliable, I tended not to always talk about it very much because I would always try and make a video about, if I was going to make a video about something, I'd give it a go myself, plenty of times, and I would think, is this something I want to put on my server? Can I do it reliably? And if I couldn't, I wouldn't always do it. Um, but yeah, but you're right. People spawning in through events, and now we have the JSONs. But then the JSONs, went. I was dreading them saying something like with 120, oh, by the way, you can't use JSONs like this anymore.
Yeah.
But luckily they haven't done that.
No. And that was
Because
a little bit of a scare, especially with the last update with the duplication. I know my
yeah,
community has done a lot of research in what items are still duplicating and duplicating in a JSON file, but they've put a little list together to sort of help everyone in the community because we're so many owners. But there's always going to be something when it comes to an update. I don't think it was too bad, to be honest. A little duplication, I know it destroyed a lot of traders and a lot of servers like that, but it could have been a lot. At least the game was playable.
yeah, yeah. I think I got a notification yesterday that one of the tickets I'd put into the feedback tracker has said about JSON duplication, said sorted in hotfix 2. So I think maybe next week when we get the second hotfix coming in, hopefully it will then close the book on
Seal the
these
deal.
120 JSON bugs. Hopefully, I've kind of been avoiding really releasing any Dayz stuff, or really talking about in Dayz stuff in this middle bit, because I get people messaging me saying, "Oh, I'm trying to do this and it doesn't seem to be working." So look, just hang fire, just wait. Just play vanilla Dayz or do normal stuff, and let's wait to see what happens when 120 kind of gets itself sorted out,
Yep.
and then we can go back and we can change some stuff.
But I do find it's the rule of thumb with Dayz console that you do have to wait for the second hotfix to be able to, I suppose, put all the features of the latest update in full effect and also have that stability. I think that's a pattern that's happened consistently with at least the last, since 1.0.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm quite lucky in the fact that I guess with my servers, they're pretty simple. I don't do many complicated things anymore. They're just basically either boosted loot or reduced loot. That's really all there is on them. Not that many structures and things like that. So I just have to update my XMLs and my JSONs, and normally everything goes
And you're right to
fairly
go.
smoothly. So
Yeah, I'm the same. I run barely or low maintenance servers where it can just run and do whatever it needs to do. So I wasn't really affected by it, but I know a lot of people who had these epic traders with large amounts of loot on the walls, and we just had the late Rafi pass who did absolutely wicked things with traders and well known for how he positioned his bears. Um, so I know a lot of those builds had a lot of troubles, but since the last hotfix,
yeah, I
it
think
seems to sort out.
I think that the other problem was that they, like in the CFG gameplay, they changed the syntax of how things were done, and I know it broke sprinting, didn't it, and stamina
Yep,
for lots of people. So they went from using like noughts and ones to trues and falses, didn't they?
that's
And they
correct.
added all these extra lines. So if people still struggle with every single update. I mean, every single update, I normally do a how to know if you've got the latest files and how to get them video. you know,
Yep,
and I get lots and lots of people who still say, how do I know if I've got the latest XMLs and JSONs? What do I have to do? And I think a lot of I'm definitely going to have a chat with I think Nitrado as well and say, look, we need to do better on update days about getting information to server owners and saying, look, this is what you have to do. You know, the server's updated, but your files haven't. This is what you need to do, especially with this one where it didn't fail gracefully. You know, if you had a 119 modded CFG gameplay, your server wouldn't work properly afterwards. You know, because your players couldn't sprint, could they at all?
Yeah, that's right.
Which is a
Yeah,
bit of a
so
disadvantage. So we needed to have more, a message that would go out to every single server owner saying, you must update to 120 vanilla at least. Otherwise, there will be consequences. You don't have to wipe this, although it looks like lots of places are going to have to. But there needs to be definitely better communication, I think, between if Nitrado want to sell servers to people who aren't coders, including like myself, they need to give us more information and say, right, okay, this is what you need to do.
I also think
So
that
yeah, so yeah,
I think Dayz keep a lot of the information. I've noticed they've just been going, okay, updates tomorrow, and I think that's because of the social media backlash that they copped on a lot of their posts. I noticed in the early days, they would put up a post of an update, and it would just be, 400 comments of slander. When are you going to fix this? When are you going to fix this? When are you going to fix this? So I think they need to repair their communication with their community and not take the criticism that maybe only a few do, where the rest of us who need that information probably could benefit from it. Or maybe an owner's program where you could go in and get the latest information and they don't have to release it out in public. Because we're not going to start going, hacking onto them. We just want to know what the latest is.
Yeah, well, from talking to people who are fairly close with the developers, like PC people who have a relationship with the Dayz developers, the impression I get is that there's a lot of PC modders who are on speaking terms with the Dayz devs, but I don't think there's many console people at all. So I think maybe one of the things that we could definitely that I'm definitely going to push for and ask for is, can we please have experimental servers on Nitrado for Xbox and PlayStation, so that we can spin up experimental of our own accord. So I could take my I did a bunker in Novo, I think, up north. So I can set up a community server that's got that on, that is experimental, that I can then go and have a look at it and see if it's working right. Because I was bouncing around on 120 experimental on my Xbox going, this is great. I mean, I knew about there was the hold B to combine, but I thought that wasn't really a problem. So I thought, that's okay. And I was going through Cherno and Electro, and I was like, oh, this seems to be running really smooth. And I was putting all these posts out going, oh, 120 is going to be great. It seems to be optimized better. And then obviously all the crap hit the fan.
And then it dropped. I agree. Experimental was 1,000 times, like, it was graceful. It was nice and flow. The inventory was beautiful, and then it came out and it was all a disaster. That's
absolutely, and I think we forget how small these teams are. And I bet the QA team in Dayz is probably 2 people, something like that. But if they would, I think we need to reach out and say, look, we can help. Give us these tools. Give me Xbox experimental. Give me not PlayStation experimental, but allow me to have an experimental server, and I will basically run my servers on experimental, and then we will come across these problems and get everybody. I think anybody who's listening to this who isn't familiar with how the Dayz feedback tracker works at Bohemian Interactive, make yourself familiar with it, because although it's a bit fiddly to use, they do look at that stuff, and it is a nice structured way of saying, look, this is the problem that I'm coming across, or this is a feature that we could really do with changing or do with adding, and just become part. The community becomes part of the QA team in a structured manner, rather than just replying to social media posts or anything like that. And the more we're like that, I think, and the more professional it comes across at, things will definitely get, well, fingers crossed, things will get changed, and things will change for the better.
Yeah, 100%. Well, if they don't know, they don't know, do they? That's the old saying. I don't know. A lot of people tend to think that they don't see it because they may not get a reply, but enough information, feedback on the one subject or a particular point will definitely get their eyes open and seeing something at least. Um, you definitely got a good point there with giving the feedback to Nitrado and them trying to help the Dayz community and the Xbox community fix their problems before we jump into a live situation, and having experimentals that we could pull apart and put our piece that we put on there before it all detonates, and that we've got 2 weeks of waiting for a hot fix. I think they get a lot more feedback if we could definitely get on experimental and have our own experimental servers and trash them, push them to the limits.
Yeah, absolutely, at 100%. Yeah, I mean, I feel we did a bit of a post-mortem on 120 on the Daisy podcast last week, and I kind of made a few notes about what I felt about it, and I felt a bit guilty as well because I run a local server on my PC, for doing testing JSONs and XMLs and stuff like that before I push it up to my remote servers, and I played on it a little bit on experimental, and I went on the Xbox experimental servers, but I never did any testing of XMLs or JSONs on my PC server. And if I had done, I would have definitely spotted that problem, because as soon as there was a problem and people were on update day saying, "Oh, this is all happening," the first thing I did was I uploaded some custom JSONs into my local PC server, and yep, they were duplicated like crazy. And I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, this is a real problem." So I thought, oh God, I could have done something about this. So, I think if we did have that experimental thing, then maybe, as a community, we could pick up these things and then feed them back in a structured and a positive way to the Daisy devs. And one thing we know at 100% is that Bohemian Interactive are 1,000% behind getting their games onto console. They want Armour 4 on console in like 3-4 years time. That's critical, I think, to their business.
Yeah,
With Armour Reforger being on Xbox and coming to PlayStation, and I know we go, oh, the performance of Daisy is rubbish, but they are supporting Daisy on PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones, and undoubtedly, that is an issue moving
yes,
forward. But when Armour 4 comes out, that will just be on next gen, like Armour Reforger is, and so the more help that we can give to Adam and the Dayz team to help them is they can then go to Bohemian Interactive and say, look at this wonderful stuff that's happening from the community. Give me more money, give me more people to support Dayz. Then we can port it to Reforger Enfusion and all these wonderful things. That's the kind of the way it goes with these small teams, because there's going to be these meetings every month. You'll have the Armour guys there, you'll have the Adam and his Daisy
couple of
team in the
Dayz
corner.
crew there. Yeah,
Yeah, there'll be the Vigor guys in another corner. There'll be the Wylands guys. There'll be the Reforger guys, and and the heads of Beam Interactive will be going, okay, so who's got the most growth this month, or what's happened, this stuff. And if when Adam can put his hand up and go, well, actually, we beat our concurrent record on PC and console yet again. Please, can we have some more money for some more devs? Then maybe that would happen.
yeah, that's correct. And when you've got such a small team for such a long time too, they would be coping with a lot of the progression that they want to make. They'd be also very comfortable in the progression that they want to make, rather than trying to obviously employ 1,000 people and try and push the game beyond its limits. I do feel that
Yeah.
they're keeping in their small team to be able to keep that, I guess, the authenticity of the game direction.
Oh yeah, 100%. And Daisy now is in, apart from 120, is in a really nice place. I think it feels good. We've had these other things that have been introduced over the last couple of years, like the gas attacks, and now we've got the underground bunker. and they're all kind of roughly within the way that kind of Daisy feels, and it still has this amazingly unique feel. I think Daisy. I think that's probably why we all love it. There's nothing quite like Daisy
No,
that's
100%.
out there. Um, and so with this steady hand that with Adam, being on the tiller and his team of keeping it on the straight and narrow, when so many other of our beloved franchises seem to lose their way, don't they? If you think like we were talking about Call of Duty before, weren't we?
Yep.
Call of Duty, Battlefield. Oh my God, the terrible things that have happened to Battlefield.
Yeah, well, that game's,
You
I
could
think,
argue
pretty much gone
PUBG,
now, hasn't it?
yeah, been destroyed by EA and the devs making some very questionable decisions. Daisy, like Rust, like Ark is kind of they have their vision of what the game should be, and they're kind of sticking to it, but still refreshing it, putting these extra little bits in, and let's not forget, these guys are working on this code that is so old in Daisy that I mean I'm no programmer, but I know when people want to send me their XMLs to look at, and they go, oh, this isn't spawning in, or something's not working. Can I send you my XMLs? I'm like, ooh, when you look at someone else's work, and these guys are working with this. I don't know how many millions of lines of code there is in Daisy, but that is probably goes back to 2013. Some of it, and they've got to try and get it to work, and they change one little thing, and then something else breaks somewhere else. It must be a little bit
It'd be
heartbreaking
yeah,
at times.
it'd be frustrating too, I would say, especially when you want to implement an idea, especially when they talk about that on their journey or their roadmap that they put up, and then they get to a point that they can't implement that idea because, as you say, the code is nearly 10 years old, and
Yeah,
they're having to basically go back and consistently rewrite this code over and over and over again. And with the latest engine that's been put into it, they would have had to do the exact same thing again, go through and rewrite the code. So it must be incredibly frustrating and time consuming.
yeah, and then we're all screaming at them to fix cars.
Yeah,
Fix the cars.
Yeah, fix the cars. Why aren't they driving properly? Where's my M249? Hurry up and bring my M249, or give me a bow and arrow.
What's interesting though is with the new 120, we've now got network bubble sizes, haven't we, and things like that. So
yeah, that's very interesting.
I don't have any I don't have any high pop servers, but it'd be interesting to hear from people who've got high pop servers with with large bases on, whether by turning down the network bubble for people, whether that will improve the driving experience of people so they don't lag when they're driving past big bases and crash.
And get your big bubbles. Well, I know Lemons from Zagoria. He's been experimenting with the bubbles because he's got a large modded server and it's also high pop, and he's using those bubbles to try and reduce and improve people's gameplays. So it'd be interesting how that then becomes the norm. So you get a death match, you get a death match, you clear out all the stuff, you have a set of loot that sits here, where it comes to, right, so for death match, this is the size of the bubbles you have. For full map, this is the size of the bubbles you have. It'd be very interesting when that all comes out and becomes fluid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, if Lemons can get Zagoria working properly, by fiddling around with the network bubbles, then that could be quite game changing. I think for many people, especially on old Xboxes and old PlayStations.
Yeah.
That could really improve their experience. Because let's face it, if they just got the cars working better, and people could build a car and just drive it safely, probably 60% of people would be like, "Oh my God, that's all I ever wanted."
Yep, that's exactly right. If you had cars like PUBG, where you could just run up to it, jump into it, go.
Yeah.
I think the fan base would double. I think a lot of people would come back to it.
I remember. Yeah, I remember building, because I can't remember when we got cars. We didn't have them straight away, did we, on console? It was. Did we? I can't remember. I remember building my first car.
Yeah, we did, but it was after when it got after preview and went to full release.
Yeah, Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember building. It took me because you used to have to find the oil as well, didn't you, to fill
Yeah,
the
you had to
engine
put
with.
oil in it
And
and all
I
sorts of
remember getting it.
things.
I remember getting a car, and I was like driving it around, going, "Oh my God, this changes Dayz completely. This is amazing. The fact that you could cover the map in so fewer time." I was like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is how you can play Dayz. This is the gameplay loop, isn't it? You get in, you survive, you get yourself a little stash, and you go around, you build yourself a car, and the game changes. And then I hit a tree, and I blew in the car, and I was like, oh my God, I've got another 5 hours of finding stuff, and it breaks your heart. You're like, well, I'm not going to do that again.
Yep, and I think that's one of the reasons that duping also came into the effect, where
Mm.
a lot of people would have you got your whole crew in the car, you're driving along, it takes a side swipe into the trees, you've just lost 7 hours of gameplay, and everyone's frustrated.
Yeah,
And I think that's
absolutely,
once they fix those points, those little glitches and cheats won't be as prominent anymore.
absolutely, absolutely.
But the question that's been floating through the chat at the moment is, how many hours do you have on Dayz?
I don't know. I know on PC's about 1200, I think. Well, funnily enough, it's probably a lot less than because it's sort of shared between PlayStation and Xbox. It's probably a lot less than people would think, because unfortunately, I mean, I have a full-time job anyway,
Yep.
and then I do obviously this in my spare time. Is that but one of the kind of frustrating things, and this I'm not moaning about this, I'm not saying it's a bad thing or anything, is that when you're making videos about Dayz or you're doing server mods and you do mods, and you'll know this, is that all your playing time tends to be taken up with if you're making vids, it's making the video, getting the content for the video,
Yep.
or if you're modding your server, it's testing. It's play testing all the time.
Yep.
Um, and basically, the time I get to play Dayz for enjoyment, to have fun, is normally when I stream it. So, which is not very often, which is about once every couple of weeks. I'll get on and I'll stream for an hour or two, and that's when I'm just playing Dayz, just relaxing, um, and people come in the chat and ask me questions, and it's really good fun, and I really enjoy it. But I don't actually play Dayz. In fact, if we were to go for a run now, I would be horrendously rusty with lots of the basic stuff. I, honestly, and I would be terrible. I forget the controls sometimes as well because I'm swapping between mouse and keyboard on PC
Yep.
and stuff. Yeah, so I don't play Dayz anywhere near as much as I would like to. But that's the thing, you sacrifice your fun game time to be able to produce videos and or produce stuff for the community, like XML mods or tutorials and things like that, which, you kind of, the saying that I kind of run by is you do what you don't really want to do today so that you can do what you really want to do tomorrow. So
Correct.
maybe eventually, I can do this, if I could do this full time, that would give me a lot more time to, play Dayz and lots of other games as well. Um, and also produce the content and do the streaming and stuff like that. So yeah. So for example, as far as PvP goes, I'd be rubbish at PvP. I've probably only ever shot about 3 people
Yep.
in 5 years. Because I don't do PvPing. It's all PvE me. And as soon as I hear a gunshot on a public server, I'm normally running away or I'm hiding in a bush because I forgot how to aim.
No confidence behind the gun. You're not living it, but you
Yeah,
are. I
no,
think you are right. A lot of, especially myself, I went from playing, it's 3 or 4 hours a day and a couple of hours on the weekend to, I barely get an hour or two to myself to actually sit down and play, and usually it's on stream. Um, and I know being a server owner now, I've got multiple servers. I'm using a lot of that spare time between cutting videos and coding servers and trying reorganizing it. So actual game time on the
absolutely,
servers are different compared to how much time you put into Dayz.
absolutely. Yeah,
And
100%. It's kind of
but that's very interesting to see that we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to make content. We're all trying to get stuff out to people and support the Dayz community. And at the same time, we sacrifice our own gaming time for those pleasures that we have of the content we make and the stuff that we put out for people to use and to educate themselves on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would. The hardest part of any of this, and I remember before we had, before I had a local, so I've only had a proper PC that could run Dayz locally for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Before that, I used to have a Shadow Cloud gaming PC for a while, and then before that, I didn't have anything. I couldn't run a local Dayz server for testing purposes. So I remember before that, when I was doing my XML mods and changing stuff for PlayStation or Xbox, I'd have a test server, and you'd have to say to people, I'd go on Twitter or whatever, say, look guys, do you want to? Can you please come onto the server while we run around looking to check that the C-130 is spawning, or to check that there's bears spawning in this town? Because you have to do that. Because I try and explain it sometimes to people that the hardest thing is the quality tester, quality assurance. You make these changes on your server, and that's why a local server is so good on your PC, because you can fly around in Zomberry or vanilla, admin tools. But if you're trying to really test a console server, you've got to get on it and you've got to physically look. You've got to go. Have the zombies
you got to put boots on ground.
You got to put boots on the ground, mate. It's not like these lightweight PCers that can just spawn and teleport around the map. We've got to get in, get our stuff, get a car running, and then go looking for the stuff, haven't we? Has that gas zone appeared over here? Let's go and have a look, physically sort of think, oh dear, I just got killed by a bear. Let's start again.
Yeah, you have to battle your server to be able to test or see that the stuff's in it.
Oh god, we used to spend hours. Like I can remember going around like the north of the map looking for helicopter crashes, because you'd have spawned in and you've been wandering around and you wouldn't have seen a helicopter crash anywhere, and you're thinking, okay, we've got to find a helicopter crash, because you didn't know about logs before that either.
Yep.
So you're running around for helicopter. Oh, the bear's spawning in. Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't heard a bear. Anybody heard a deer recently? No. Oh my god, maybe they're not spawning. Let's go and find out. Or somebody would say, oh, I found this gun and it wasn't pristine. And you're like, what? You have to go and investigate that.
Go and have to do an investigate and check it out. But it's good to see that we're not the only ones that... well, I'm not the only one that does that sort of thing and has to run around and... you run your server 3 or 4 or 5 hours just to make sure and verify that what you put in there is going to be valid for the people. I mean, you're the one running the server and say X, Y, and Z's here, and then when it's not there, your community comes back to you and says, hey, where is it?
I had a classic one with, I don't know if it was 1.19, I think it was, where I thought I'd done everything, and then I went for a run on Livonia, and I'd forgotten to take the Christmas trees out. And turned around the corner, there's a Christmas tree with all the presents underneath it. I was like, oh, God. Let's get into the files. Let's disable that.
And have to go back there. See, my famous coding mistake is forgetting to, or actually making landmines not count on map, and wondering why after 24 hours I had over 15,000 landmines scattered around Livonia and every single... Yeah, it was a good time for the server. It basically collapsed it, but one little coding error. Yeah. When I ran through, it was all well and good. Went to bed, woke up, and everyone's like, "Hey, look what's happened."
So easy to do. So easy to do.
100%. What would you like to see implemented in like Dayz console? What is your one thing that you would say, hey, devs, you've given me a free pass. This is what I want in there.
Yeah. Okay, I can go. I've got one. I've got a few.
Yeah, go on.
I've got a few. So I think this is coming this year. I think we're going to have a CFG new player spawn JSON, where we can, say what new players are going to spawn in with. Because Adam talked about that last year. And he said, yes, they wanted to do it at least 2 times on streams. So I think we're going to get that. So you'll be able to say, okay, I don't know whether it would be like you'll have it'll probably be a random selection, I would have thought. And then you'll have certain presets. So you could have like spawning with an M4 and a load of assault gear or an SGK or something like that. So I think that's coming. That's my number one thing. We need to be able to change what people spawn with,
Yep.
because then you can have true deathmatch servers without having to run around and get dressed every time you die. And then I think if they're really serious and they really want console to explode, I think they need to get a trader, a proper trader. I know everybody likes traders, and on PC there's a lot of debate about whether it improved the game or not having traders in. But I think having a trader system like Dr. Jones or the equivalent to Dr. Jones Trader on console would again, it would make the game explode, because then you can have people spawn in with 1,000 credits or 1,000 rubles in their pocket. They can go to the trader and they can equip themselves for the way that they want to play. And especially if you've got other time commitments outside of Dayz, which most of us have,
Yep.
you can't spend 2, 3, 4 hours getting kitted up. The fact that you could spawn in with some credits, go and visit a trader, get the kit you wanted, whether that be PvP kit or PvE kit, and then bugger off and enjoy Dayz the way you wanted to. I think that would be really cool. And there's lots of different ways they could do it. I think you could have set traders in set places. Have a choice of different places where the traders go. But I definitely want to see a trader coming if they could. And then I also want to see something like Dumpgra's building fortifications mod come to
Yeah,
console, where
100%.
you can fortify existing buildings. Because that's what I would do in the apocalypse. I wouldn't build a fort in the middle of the woods. You would find an existing house and you would secure it, wouldn't you?
Well, 100%, especially the one behind you. The gym, it's 2 entranceway, solid
Yeah,
concrete. It's going to last much better than
yeah,
sitting there
absolutely.
and playing forts out in the bush.
Yeah, it'd be much more immersive. And I guess I wouldn't mind it if they put the books back in as well, because I was playing the other night, um, and I was on Livonia, so it was raining as normal. Um, and I thought it would be really cool, because I was sitting in when you sit in a shed and you set the fire up just outside the door to the shed,
Yep.
and it was night time and it was throwing it down, and my character was just drying off by the fire, and I thought it'd be really cool if I could just open a book now in game and start reading, A Tale of Two Cities, or it's
Moby
all the
Dick.
license-free stuff they used to have. Yeah, all that stuff, just to whip it out, spend 10 minutes having a read, and then being totally immersed in the Dayz world. Because I guess in the apocalypse you would really hang on to stuff like that, wouldn't you? Stories of the old world and things like that.
Oh, for sure.
And then,
Your favourite book. I mean, electronics aren't working anymore, so... I mean,
mm,
could you imagine the boredom?
yeah,
At night time
yeah, absolutely,
where there's absolutely nothing but the stillness of darkness and things rolling around outside that you can't see. It would
yeah.
definitely
You've
be
got your
my
candle,
go-to. Little candle, that's right, little
yeah,
fire, sitting there just flicking the
yeah,
pages.
yeah. So there we go. So all I want is the ability to change what people spawn in with. Dr. Jones Trader, Dumpgrass building fortifications and books. There we go. That'll do.
Yeah, well, I
Just
definitely agree
those.
with all three. The trader is would benefit so many, especially role play servers, even your loot and shoot servers where you could earn credits for shooting, killing people, coming back, pick up your kit, redo it all again.
Yeah,
I definitely think that would
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
the way to go.
Yeah, and it's all optional. Yeah, it'll all be modded in. It doesn't have to be on public servers.
No, it
It'll
doesn't
just
have
be
to be on
community.
no official. Just something for the custom guys to be able to just be able to place there and say this is your marketplace. I mean, I'd even take an NPC that you just walk up to and talk to, and you just run it all through clickbait. I mean, I'd be even happy with that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It
Absolutely,
doesn't need to be
absolutely.
too fancy.
Nope.
Um, we always ask the one question on the podcast: freshies. Uh, do we let them
Mm.
be, or do we kill them on sight?
I remember one when I was learning Daisy many years ago on, I think it was on PlayStation. There was a guy, and I can't remember his name, but well, I would stream it, and he would watch me and he would tell me what to do because I didn't, when you first play, you haven't got a clue, have you? And I remember I got a gun and there was a fresh me and there was a freshie and I just killed them straight away. And the guy who was helped me on stream in the chat said, "I'm really disappointed that you did that." And it stuck with me. I felt so guilty. And he said, "Well, because that person might have been all right. You didn't talk to them." And I went, "Oh, Jesus. Yeah, he's right." So then, like, over the following couple of weeks, I made it my mission to kind of get kitted up and then get a spare backpack with some stuff on it. Then I would go back to the coast and I would find a freshie and I would go, "Look, here you go." It was like paying, atoning for my sins of killing someone without trying to talk to them or anything like that. Especially on the coast. I mean, when you go inland, things get a bit differently. So yeah, I think freshies are very, very dangerous because they've got nothing to lose. I think you've got to be careful about that. And obviously, if and they may be out for revenge as well.
Yes.
I think if you can, all the most memorable times I've had in Dayz, and I could probably remember them off the top of my head as well, have been where I've met someone and we've talked and then we've had an adventure, whether that be getting lost in the dark and starving to death, or killing a deer and eating a deer in a hunting place in the middle of nowhere. All these fabulous times you have with people are because you haven't shot them straight away. And I think it's a shame if you don't give Dayz that chance, of giving you that interaction with people. But it depends on the server you're on as well, doesn't it? Sometimes it's just the PvP server and people aren't interested, are they?
No, not talking. But after on an official run, I definitely think that, especially if you're fresh, a chat is always the way to go. You can find your new Dayz best friend. He could be just running down the road going past you.
Yeah.
I know I've met a lot of people just having a chat in game and building associations with that. Long-term friends who don't play the game now that I talk to on a weekly basis. So yeah, I guess you never know who you're out there until you make the opportunity to have that interaction.
Yeah, one thing I try and bear in mind as well is when I'm playing as well is, for a lot of people playing video games, and this seems to especially apply with Dayz, it is a really important part of their lives, and I think it's good to be kind to people in sort of situations like that as well, because I know this sounds a bit crap, but you don't know, but by being nice to someone and helping someone for a while, that may well make their day to them in a way that you could never really understand yourself. You might think, well, I'm just helping them out and giving them a little bit of food, and we're going on this journey for a little bit, but that for that person, playing Dayz, that might be the best bit of their life, that they've got, and I think sometimes we should, consider that side of it as well. So yeah, there you go.
No, 100%. That actually gets brought up quite often with the freshie comment and even in toxicity talks, that you never know what's happening on the other side of the mic. You don't know
absolutely.
What's going on, and this could be somebody else's stress relief. They might be having problems at home and they've just gotten on and they blurted at you, but you could talk to them for 5 minutes and they're just looking for a friend. So you definitely bring up some absolutely spot on points when it comes to interaction. You could make somebody's day just by saying hello.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then you'll probably get, they'll probably betray you and shoot you in the back in a couple of hours, but that's all part of the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're getting milled all the way to Northwestern Airfield, and you're going to be the next selection of their gear. Yeah, 100%. But that is definitely the way we like to roll. What about thoughts on what do you reckon is going to come out on the next update? Any predictions you want to make? Or I know it's a hard call. It's easy to win the lotto.
I'm going to go with changing fresh player spawns.
Yeah, nice.
I think they all must have sat down after 120 and gone, oh Jesus, we messed that up a bit. The idea of bringing it in this stability patch, and instead it turned into this firestorm that kind of burnt down all these servers. They must be sitting down saying, right, how, especially for the console people, they've got to sit down and think, right, we can't just give them another gun. We can't just give them something like that. We got to give them a chunky thing. Something that's the equivalent of the gas zones like we had, or the ability to control the weather, or the ability to control stamina, or the ability to spawn in buildings easily. So I think it's going to be, fingers crossed, touch wood, the ability to change what kit new players spawn in with. That's what I want. That's what, fingers crossed. That's what we're going to get.
Yeah, I hope that will be an absolute game changer for some of the community service if that comes in. I mean, I know a lot of them been hoping for the ability to pick your kits. Um,
Mm.
it's definitely something that I'd like to see too.
Just a nice JSON,
Just a nice
nice
JSON
and easy
file,
to
nice and
use.
easy. Yep, and roll
Yeah, I'll
through.
do some nice videos about it. I can have some nice presets on my GitHub repository and say, look, guys, don't do anything. That's the most common thing I say to people when they message me like through Discord and they say, oh, I want to do this. I said, look, if you're just starting off, don't don't worry about it. Just use this file, and honestly, that will give you boosted loot, or it will give you infinite stamina, or whatever that might be. Just use this. Don't fiddle with it, and it will work. And then slowly learn it. So yeah,
Yeah, hundred
very
percent,
excited.
100%. And for I guess our final question, we're running out of time here. Um, what's probably your best advice to someone looking into diving into the world of losing their gameplay and starting into, building servers?
Um, so I always tell people, I say, build if you want to, if we're talking about like modded servers, so you're changing DayZ, I kind of always say that build the DayZ that you want to play on. Start small, and just build a DayZ that for you and your friends, that is a better DayZ for you guys than vanilla is. Whatever that might be. That might be making it harder, it might be making it easier, whatever that might be. Um, and be happy with that and enjoy that side of DayZ. Um, and don't sweat too much about trying to create a big community around your server, because it's a pain to try and do that anyway to attract lots of people, and it's a bit of a thankless task being a community manager for a server, in the fact that it takes you if you want to have a community and you want to have like a full pop server, you're going to be doing an awful lot of work, and you're not going to be playing that much DayZ about it. So you've really got to like that side of DayZ, that side of managing the community. And if your server is only you and your mates playing on a harder DayZ or easier DayZ, that's fine. You know, just do that and just enjoy it with 2 or 3 people or 4 people on your 10-man Nitrado server, and love that and enjoy that. And when you're bored with it, turn it off. You know, or switch it to Livonia or something like that. Don't sweat. A successful server isn't one that's got 60 people on it necessarily. It's the server that you want to play on and you enjoy the DayZ that's on it. Yeah, that's what I'd probably say. Yeah, if that makes any sense at all.
No, definitely the I think the correct advice to give out to anyone who's starting off new. It's not always a lot of people try and buy a server and say, right, I'm going to be the next high pop, or I'm going to be the next day one, or you know, with the expectations of going massive and having all this, ultra high pop the whole time. But it's not like that. It takes time. It takes a lot of advertisement. It takes a lot of work. But if you don't enjoy the server yourself and you get frustrated and overwhelmed by taking care of this project that you no longer like, it eventually causes more stress and you give it away, and no point really having it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I used to run sort of not public servers, but community servers that were open to everybody, and we had some great times and we had some great events and met some great people. We had a laugh, but and there wasn't even that many people on it, but it was still, it took quite a lot of managing of the community, because people would always be winding each other up and doing things and going, well, this person broke the rules, or this person did this, or this person did this. So now I just have closed servers where you've got to pay to get in, sort of thing. So it's all nice and quiet. And fingers crossed, everybody does follow the rules because they've got to pay to get in. So I would say don't underestimate how difficult it is to manage a community. And is that what you want to be doing with your Dayz time, or do you want to be playing?
Yeah, 100%. Is that the focus you want to roll with, or yes, one of the questions sometimes people don't know the answer to until they get involved into a server.
Yeah, and when it actually comes to modding your server, less I always think less is more. With Dayz especially, don't try and change everything. You only have to change a few things to really change how the game plays, whether they be to make it easier or to make it much harder. So keep your mods simple, and that way when updates come around, then it's a lot less hassle than if you've got every single XML in the entire server is modded. That you've then got to go in and try and change to make it work again, or be updated.
Yeah, or if something does go wrong, the less files you have updated, the more chance you have of finding that mistake and being able to fix it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Scalespeeder, that's all the time we have for today. I do appreciate you coming out and visiting the TPP The Peasant Podcast. I know how valuable your time is, and it's been an absolutely wicked chat.
It's been brilliant, mate. Thank you very much.
For everyone who doesn't know, and you should know by now, there's the link for Scalespeeder Gaming's YouTube channel. The gentleman puts out absolutely all the love and the support for the console community, so don't forget to go in there and give him some love as well. Like all us content creators, we're trying to build. So get out there, make sure you're subscribed, follow his videos, get on there on Twitter. He does an absolutely fantastic job for the community. Mate, we appreciate you. And once again, thank you for coming to the podcast.
Been a pleasure, mate. Been a pleasure. Lovely.
And we will see you hopefully next time. And we'd like to have you back on the podcast to maybe chime in with your experience and your knowledge when we venture through the next couple of updates.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
100%. If you've got the time.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'll make the time, don't we?
I appreciate you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for the podcast today.